And it was like my stomach was just like extending outwards, almost like all this gas was building in my stomach, but there was nothing in there. It was really scary. It was really weird. I went home. I'm throwing up. I've got diarrhea for 2 days. I can't keep any food down. And it was really shocking, I guess. I was so scared that I thought I needed to, on the third day, I decided to go to the hospital. I go to the hospital and get an ultrasound. They check things out. And all the doctors are just telling me, you have gastroparesis. You're not digesting any food anymore. It is just, like, everything has just come to a screeching halt. You've got these huge amounts of undigested food and fiber just sitting in your stomach.
You know, I'm used to eating a huge portion of carbohydrates that you eat it, you get bloated, you get some gas. It's part of the digestion, no big deal. That's not normal for me anymore. You know, that first salmon that I ate it, and I had so much energy. I felt so high. I felt so good. In my stomach, nothing was going on. It was like eating nothing but having all the energy and power.
And the first time that I had a raw egg was like the best bowel movement that I had in the whole 4 years of veganism. My bowel movements were never normal or consistent. It was either extreme diarrhea or extreme constipation. And the doctor had told me after Accutane that I had IBS. The herbs kind of helped that, like the symptoms from that went away. And then about the first year of veganism, I was fine. But the longer into veganism, the IBS symptoms got worse and worse.
And after let's say 6 months, you start to want more. So you're increasing your rates of fruit and veggies, and of course, all the fibers you can handle. So you start bloating, have diarrhea, and lots of...
I started having severe pain when I would go to the bathroom. So the pain was so bad that sometimes I would eat less, because if I thought if I ate less, then maybe it wouldn't be so bad. There was also accompanying with this pain, there was lots of blood. And I didn't realize this at the time, but perhaps it was my system not able to digest all of these salads, because I'm eating so many salads and so much fruits and stuff. And so my system, it was just too much, so that I was actually causing what I later found out from my doctor was he diagnosed it as a arterial malformation of the colon, which I never had that before. But basically it was like tears from so much undigestible food passing through.
Then bowel movements crazy, going to toilets 3-4 times a day.
And I was focusing mainly on starches, basically, starches, so like healthy whole grains, beans, fruits, vegetables. And I was convinced that this is healthy for me, and because this is what I was always told. But my digestion reacted so badly. For 2 years, I had to run to the toilet like maybe 5 times a day, like right away after I would eat like whole grains, like even a bowl of rice or even a banana, I had to run to the toilet basically. And I couldn't even get fully depleted, is this the right word? That after half an hour after it, I had to go again. But I ignored it because I was a bit brainwashed, I would say, and I thought that veganism is the only way. And I ignored the fact that fiber and starches irritating my gut, basically, and I couldn't really digest them at all. But I ignored it for 2 years. I continued, despite the horrible digestion issues that I had, I just ignored it because I was convinced that veganism is the only way, and you know, I was like really obsessed with it at some point. And it was only about 2 years after it that it really became unbearable. It was a time that I had horrible pain. Every time I had to go to the toilet, I would cry. I had the feeling like I have labors or something like that. It was horrible, like stabbing knives pain.
About 3 months after I quit the oil, right around the time when all of the cannabinoids would have exited my system, I had the most severe and intense IBS attack ever. Like, I didn't know people had pain like this. I collapsed to the floor and I was in bed for 4 days. I couldn't move. My digestion had always been really bad eating vegan, but I think I was at least managing those things this entire time because I had been smoking cannabis or taking hemp the whole time I was plant-based. So I think those things were keeping my inflammation down enough where I didn't experience any pain like that. On the day of the attack, I had very typical meals, but by 4 p.m. that day, I was literally like collapsing on the floor. I had to like crawl from room to room. I couldn't get up. There was one point where I had to pee and I had to crawl to the bathroom, and then it took me over a half hour to like squeeze pee out.
I was bloated all the time. Just after every single meal, I was bloated. So 2 things can happen with fiber. It can either, it can constipate you because it can build up in your gut, or it can just literally cause you to be on the bathroom like literally after every single meal, like it did to me. I was on the toilet after every single meal that I ate.
So the first thing I did was get my gut tested. And after getting my gut tested, I realized, holy moly, this is what's happening. What the test told me was all the great bacteria I had, all of the bad bacteria I had, way more bad bacteria that was feeding off of the sugars and the things I was serving myself. Foods that are your strength foods, foods that are your weakness foods, foods that you should be avoiding. Why did I have a long list of vegetables that I should be avoiding? And why did I have a great list, pretty long list, a substantial list of animal foods that I should be integrating for my specific gut bacteria? After several weeks of butter and eggs and feeling much better, I decided to get my gut tested again, and things had evened out. The bacteria was evening out. The foods that I was to avoid, that list got shorter because my gut health was getting stronger.
My digestion was non-existent. Like it's either one way or the other, or vomiting pretty much every single meal. Like nothing was going down, and if it was going down, it wasn't going down nice. It was undigested.
And the acne continued. It turned into a allergic type acne. I developed a gluten intolerance. I didn't realize this until right before I joined the Air Force.
And I had really bad digestion in general. I was constantly constipated, like I just never really went to the toilet, and when I did, my bowel movements were not great.
I would also feel indigestion and like extreme bloatedness. And it got to a point where I literally would eat like 2-3 bites of a meal, feel so full, and couldn't eat anymore. And I was like, what the, I was kind of hungry, but also not, because like I couldn't fit anything else in my body. That's what it felt like. And I was like, this isn't right.
I wanted to eat more and more. And that also, I think, helped, or it aided to the bloating that I constantly was having. My stomach was always protruding, and food was coming back up through in my mouth again, and it burned sometimes, and I farted, and I burped so much.
2 days before New Year's, it's -7 degrees outside. I shit myself for the first time in my adult life, because when you eat plants, because they are indigestible, you get a lot of pressure and you gotta go to the toilet a lot. And because there was nowhere to go, I was on the street, it happened. And because of muscle atrophy, it's hard to control it. It was horrible. March 2015, I start getting allergic to everything that I eat, the avocados especially, and the rest is pretty much history. I'll link you a video where I talked about what happened then, because I was hospitalized in May. Then I was sent to a psychiatry because I got really mentally ill from veganism and starvation because I went on a 1-month fast. After something happened with my stomach, it was probably because I was so sick that I couldn't eat anymore. I was really fucked up. Then I tried juicing and later I ate some fruit. Nothing helped, of course, because I was slowly dying and I didn't realize it.
The second thing I noticed was that my digestion. I was eating something called snow pea tips, all right? I started eating snow pea tips from this Chinese restaurant. A friend of mine put me onto them. And I remember, like, I would eat those snow pea tips and I was like, oh man, this is so good, while I'm making videos about how nutritious it is. And then when I went to the restroom, it was like I was a cow. Like, it just came straight out. And I'm not talking about like processed food. It looked like I chewed the greens and spit it out through my ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was not a good look. It was not cool. My digestion, I was pooping out whole foods. I started to eat amaranth and it would just come straight out. I mean, not broken up, not a chewed particle in sight. It was just bam, right there, coming straight out, you know? And I was just like, what? I tried blending it. I tried sprouting it. It didn't work. I just pooped it right out. So that was something that I was like, that's weird, you know? You're going to the bathroom all the time, just you know, diarrhea, and when you are having bowel movements that are more whole, it's undigested food coming out. You know, I mean, I would have a salad and see lettuce in the stool.
But I thought, you know, because I was so sick already with all the beans and all the grains, I was really sick. I wasn't getting in any good fats. My digestion was so horrible. I was struggling with fibromyalgia after all these years of cooked veganism, you know, like, and so I was like, okay, let's do cleanses. Let's do raw foods. And I did that from 2010 or 2009 to 2011. I kept trying and I kept thinking, I'm doomed. Something is wrong with me because everybody else is doing great and I'm not. You know, I'm doing really, really bad.
I started seeing bloating issues, just bloating all the time, where it affected what I could feel comfortable wearing.
I got ulcerative colitis in, I want to say 2017, and that was probably about the 10th or 11th year that I was vegan. I started having really bad pain after I would eat. I would have a low fever almost every day. I would get diarrhea after I would eat just about anything. And then the worst thing was having blood in my stool, which if you're familiar with colitis, then you know that that's like the biggest part of it, is that you go to the bathroom and there's a ton of blood in the toilet. Sorry to be frank.
I was having a lot of indigestion like the first week, and I was like reading a lot of people saying, oh yeah, you know, like you have to like adjust to it. But I mean, like I started having like bloody diarrhea, and it's funny too because at the time, and this really isn't like at the time, I guess it wasn't veganism's fault. I just started it, but my buddy had came over, and because I was just taking raw black beans and I would just boil them. They were like organic. I'd boil them and then eat them, and he was telling me I had to soak them. And I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm cooking them or whatever. And he's like, no, there's like, you know, there's toxins in the beans. And I didn't know none of this shit. You know, they just, everywhere I looked for like veganism, they tell you that like beans, legumes are healthy. It's the most embarrassing thing where it's like, I have like all this gas in me, and it's just like, it's not like, you know, I like for a while I was just like, oh, this is the norm. Like the digestive stuff just got horrible. Like stomach cramps all day. Like at one time I thought maybe I had a hernia from the job, but I was like if I had a hernia I wouldn't be able to work. Like, but I'd be coming home after work and I'd lay on the floor for an hour. I'd be doing like the cat and cow like yoga pose. I'd try like breathing stuff. I'd massage my stomach for literally like 2 hours after like a day of work.
You know, going to the toilet, for example, I was needing to go to the bathroom to take a pee, probably in the region between 10 times, 15 times a day, maybe, you know, and it wasn't very healthy smelling urine in some sense. And then bowel movements would be between 4 and 6 times a day, you know, something horrendous.
Like I've always been a runner, but that started to decline after my second year because I was so bloated at that point, and I couldn't do any ab workouts. I couldn't do a push-up or a crunch or anything because I just felt like so much pressure in my stomach area, in my gut. And I always felt like I was full of food, even though I was going to the bathroom like 3 times a day, like really heavily. A little TMI, but yeah, it was just like, I thought I was like full of food, but I wasn't at all. Like I was emptying. It was just like air. At this point, I don't even know what it was.
I was having a lot of digestive problems and I was really constipated. So I even became addicted to enemas because I wasn't pooping. Now I was doing my own enemas and taking laxative teas, and I was in pain.
I was in total pain whatever I ate for 3 to 5 hours. It's as if the tubes in my body had shrunk. Like if you don't mind me being graphic, it's as if like when I took a poo, it's like it couldn't even come out, like an old person, like who has a shriveling organs and a collapsing digestive system.